What's up, everybody? It's Magic here with RaceNews.com, back for another edition of Dr. Miranda Previews. With me, as always, is my co-host, Dr. Miranda. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. To be honest, I've been a little overwhelmed the last week. As you guys know, I'm a doctor, I'm a chiropractor. So this is the busiest week I've ever had in my whole 6 years of practice. So I've been a little physically exhausted all week. But I mean, there's a bright side. I was at Keeneland last weekend where I got to see Malathat's monster performance. I get to go back to Keeneland in Lexington this weekend. My friend is having a divorce party. So if anybody wants to buy her a drink, hit me up on Twitter. I know Mike Somich will be there. I'm sure there'll be a bunch of drinks, drunken the entire weekend. So
lots of drunk at Keeneland.
Yeah,
yes.
A lot. There'll be a lot of drunks. And then not to mention on Wednesday, I fly out to Florida. I'm in a sand volleyball tournament down there. So I've been very busy, but never too busy for horse racing.
Well, that's good, and I'm glad that you got to go to Keeneland and you got to see some sunshine, because it sounded like this Saturday at Keeneland, not going to maybe bring some galoshes with you, but that's why we're taking a look at Friday's racing. The big race there is the Grade 1 Maker's Mark Mile Stakes. Field of 9 horses, very talented. Keeneland always draws in the really nice horses here. Hit the road coming out from California, but a lot of options to go with here. Lots of classy horses, so take us through the field and then let us know who you're going to pick on top.
So to start off, this is the race I'm most excited about all weekend at Keeneland. The entire field is talented. It's a full field compared to some smaller fields that are on Saturday. It's supposed to storm a 90% chance on Saturday, so you're going to have to deal with the slop. You're going to deal with the off turf possibly. Tomorrow's supposed to be 82 degrees and sunny all day, so I think it's going to be a great day of racing, especially on the turf. So to start off, we have the number 1 horse, Get Smokin'. He gets Junior Alvarado, who has been a tear at Gulfstream Park last meet. He's been very consistent with buyers, back-to-back 95s. He most recently won the Tampa Bay G3 in front of Eons at admission office. He ran a great race in the G1 Hollywood Derby, even though he got 4th. He was only 3/4 of a length behind Domestic Spending, Smooth Like Stray, and Gufo, who are the top turf horses right now. He's been training like a monster ever since his last race at Tampa Bay. He ran a 58-second, 5 furlong. He's going to try to battle for the lead. He's going to run into the number 3, however, Some Like It Hot Brown, and I think they're going to get into a pace duel. Okay, now we have the number 2, Hit the Road. He won his last 4 races, most recently won the Frank Kilroe, beating Smooth Like Straight. Now, he did get the most perfect trip under Florent Geroux. The pace was a little bit slower, and he was able to stalk and run down the speed horses. And I think that this race is going to have a lot of speed, especially with the 2 horses on his side. And surprisingly, he doesn't have the fastest 1-mile turf race in this field. He's not your morning line favorite right now, but I'm sure by 5:30 p.m. tomorrow, he will be, especially with being in Kentucky, and you have Florent Geroux on top, who's one of the top jockeys there. Now we're going to go with the number 3 horse, Some Like It Hot Brown. He's very familiar to me. He was in one of the first ever previews I did with the Bernard Baruch. He beat one of my favorite horses, Holiday, and he is arguably the fastest horse in this race. Besides the last race in the Fort Lauderdale, where it shaped up to be a strange race with Largent winning because Factor This and Halliday burned each other out, he got caught up in the middle. Not to mention, I don't think he liked the extra distance, and going back to a mile, I think it's great for him. The 2 races before that, he ran back-to-back 105 buyers. He has 4 buyers over 100. And if you look at the rest of the field, there's only 6 other triple-digit buyers. So he is the fastest horse. The catch is, if this horse does not get the lead, I'm a little concerned. But if he does get the lead, I think he's going to go gate and wire. Now we have the number 4, Sacred Life. He has been off since the Kentucky Derby and the Turf Classic, where he finished 4th. Looking back at those races, he is very consistent and has never finished worse than 4th place. But both of those wins come from ungraded stakes. So in this field, I think he's a little bit in over his head. And this is a push into the deep end after being off for almost 7 months. This is clearly not Chad Brown's number 1 horse in this race. Now we're going to go with the number 5, Durain. He was bought for $4.8 million a yearling. He was being trained by Godson in Europe, and he didn't completely pan out. But ever since coming to the United States, he's been doing okay. The competition is nowhere like it's going to be tomorrow. This is the shortest race he's ever run, and I do think he may prefer longer lengths, but we're not going to know until the race pans out. He is trained by Brad Cox, so he could be a complete wild card in this race. Then we have the number 6 horse, Ride a Comet, with Tyler Gaffleone and Mark Casse. They had War of Will in this race last year, and they won. Now, if you toss out the last race, which he still got a 93 buyer after getting at a bump start, He had won the last 4 races before that, 2 on turf, 2 on synthetic. He is a good horse, but I just don't think he's good enough to get the win here. He finished behind Hit the Road and Raging Bull in the past. Now we have the number 7, Flying Scotsman. He has one of the fastest 1-mile turf wins in here under Corey Lannery, who is back on him. He has a lot of early speed, but so does a couple other horses, and I think this is going to be very quick. The problem I have with him is he's not very consistent. You don't know if you're going to get a 90 buyer. You don't know if you're going to get an 80 buyer. And I don't think either of those buyer speed ratings are good enough to win this race. Another issue I have with him is he's never won a race without Lasix, and there's no Lasix in this race. Now we get to the favorite, number 8, Raging Bull for Chad Brown and Irad Ortiz. I understand he is the class to field, but with that said, he hasn't won a race in almost a year. He got a 3rd in this race last year behind War Will, but since then, he hasn't been the greatest like he was in 2019. He's 6 for 19, so that's what kind of turns me away from him. I don't want to say he's not a good horse, because he definitely is. He's one of the only ones with a G1 win in this field, but with Chad Brown, he's not doing the greatest right now. I just don't trust him. It just doesn't seem like Chad Brown's produced a lot of winners so far this year. Lastly, we're going to go with the number 9 Field Pass with Mike Maker. Now, he's been consistent among G2, G3 company, but like I said with Raging Bull, he doesn't win a lot against winners. He did win the Ontario Derby, but that wasn't the greatest field, and that was also on synthetic. He has the lowest buyer in this entire field, so to me, that's just an automatic pass. He does get Joel Rosario, who has been on absolute tear at Keeneland, though. So with all of that said, it's not supposed to rain between now and tomorrow evening in Kentucky. I think the turf is going to be fast and firm. I think speed is going to win this race. And I think it's going to be a very fast pace. So with that said, my top pick is a number 3, Some Like It Hot Brown. I think he honestly is going to wire this field. He's been off a little bit of time, but I think that's why he's going to win this race with Mike Maker and Johnny V. Not to mention, I think you're going to get an incredible price with him. Underneath, I'm going to play defensively with Hit the Road and throw in the wild card, Durain, because I don't know how he's going to take to a mile. And then ride a Comet, because clearly Gaffleon and Cassie know how to win this race. So I'm going to put a win bet on the number 3, Some Like It Hot Brown. And in an exacta box, I'm going to go 3, 2, 5. And then in a trifecta box, I'm going to go 3, 2, 5, 6.
Boy, Dr. Miranda, you take shots against Brad Cox a lot on the show, and sometimes I tease you about it, but you're usually pretty correct, and when you're on them, that's usually a strong sign. So big clue here to where you're thinking about how you think this race is going to go. Having 2 from Mike Maker's barn, Some Like a Hot Brown and Field Pass, makes that interesting as well. Dr. Miranda, let the people know where they can follow you for all your tips and insight and your Keeneland rain photos on Saturday.
At Miranda Bungie.
Perfect. If you're going to Keeneland, make sure you hit up Dr. Miranda and Mike Stomach. They will both be there, probably splashing around in the rain somewhere on the front stretch, so take a look out for them. Head over to racenews.com. We have the inside track to the Arkansas Derby wagering guide available now for sale while you're there. Check out the race previews for the Maker's Mark Mile, as well as everything else happening this weekend. We will see you next time on Dr. Miranda Previews. Until then, good luck.